Alrighty guys, this is your host GR Productions, and welcome back to another episode of Train Terms Talk Show here. And apparently over a year ago, in November of 2019, I did a Train Terms Talk Show episode over the GE-7's series, and apparently I forgot to include GE's Super 7 locomotives. So we're going to be talking about that now. And another thing, I've heard that the GE Super 7's and Electromotive Diesel's tunnel motors were kind of similar, have some things in alike. So I decided to put them two together. So for episode 28 of Train Terms Talk Show, this is episode 29. So for episode 29 of Train Terms Talk Show, we are going to be talking about GE's Super 7 locomotives and Electromotive Diesel's tunnel motors. These two things, well, I mean, they're not really hard to learn. I mean, they're easier to learn. I mean, they're not really easy, but they're easier to learn. I mean, they're not that complicated, so yeah, let's get started. Alright, so first off, let's go ahead and talk about the Super 7s. So anyway, here, this is what a Super 7 looks like. It looks like a Dash 8. Well, really, it's not a Dash 8. But however, though, it is considered part of the Dash 7 series due to the units being dubbed Super 7s and the fact that many of the rebuilds featured late Dash 7 technologies. Now, these Super 7s are still abound in Mexico. These are common, which a lot of them are on Ferromex and Kansas City Southern de Mexico. Some are still located in the United States, but they're definitely not as common. The redeveloped Super 7 series line initially served as a rebuilding program by GE targeting short line and regional railroads that had U-boats that needed to be rehabbed. The Super 7 was the most cost-effective alternative. These diesels were reliable, their warranties were very suitable. The locomotives were deemed to become no longer reliable after quite some time, and weren't guaranteed to last nearly as long as their competitors, but to rather serve as conventional power, to serve railroads with locomotives which would get that job done at any rate. Only one U.S.-based customer ordered a small fleet of 17 four-axle Super 7-23Bs, aka the B23-7R. The R stands for rebuild. Units which most which have survived on various short lines, primarily on the Providence and Worcester Railroad, long after the railroad's purchase from Conrail in 1993 through 94. Well, many still exist on most Mexican and Latin American railroads, but are slowly in the process of becoming rebuilt, or scrapped, or retired. Only a handful of ex-Monongahela Super 7's rebuild can be still seen on different short lines. Some of these Super 7 rebuilds were pre-Dash 8 units. So what are the ways of identifying them? Well, here's the first one. It's by the cab, pretty much. So this is a rounded cab, often nicknamed humpback or hunchback by a lot of rail fans, which can be seen on the GE C32-8, the C39-8, and 3 B32-8 prototypes. There's also another way to identify them if it has a slanted cab, also known as a Spartan cab or wedge cab. It can only be seen on rebuilt units or initial production Dash 8 units, such as the C40-8. And then there's also car body style. Most R units, meaning rebuilt or rebuild, have a flat yet slightly slanted upper car body, while in newly cast frame and MP microprocessor units have either flat upper car bodies or those built similar to Dash 8 units. And there's also the hood or nose. Most microprocessors and newly cast frame units have larger hoods than other average Dash 8 and Super 7 units. So those are some ways there to identify if the Super 7 was a pre-Dash 8. Well, there you go, guys. That's just a little bit right there. It's just a little bit of a background about those Super 7s right there. And that's kind of all really that I have to say for the Super 7s. So now I'd say it's time to move on to the EMD Tunnel Motors. Let's get started. So how do you tell the difference between a regular locomotive and a tunnel motor locomotive? Well, it's easy. Look at this BNSF SD40-2. This is a regular SD40-2. Now look at this SD40 variant right here. You see a difference? Well, yeah, it's kind of easy to spot, you know. Look at the very, very back. You see that little square at the end kind of looks like a hole? That right there is what we call the tunnel motor. A lot of these tunnel motor units are older now, and they're a little bit hard to find, it seems like. But some of the older railroads have them, and some modern railroads have them too. CSX still has some left. GMTX has them. Southern Pacific used to have them. And Bessemer and Lake Erie has them as well. And many others. I think Rio Grande has some too. So anyway, what do we call this SD40 variant here? Since there's a tunnel motor, well, this locomotive is called the EMD SD40T-2. The T stands for tunnel motor. There is also yet another variant of that tunnel motor as well. This one looks very similar to an SD40T-2. It is a little different, but you can see there is also a tunnel motor sticking out right there. We just simply call this an SD45T-2, in which the T still stands for tunnel motor. And then the 45 is just a different model number as well. And here's the difference right here between the SD40T-2 and the SD45T. The difference is not very easy, but as you can see, the SD45T's got 3 instead of 2. That's pretty much one of the only differences on here. And here's another kind of those multi-purpose switchers here. This locomotive has alternating current traction, and you see there's also a tunnel motor in it. So it's pretty much part of the tunnel motor series. This one here is called the MP15AC, and that AC stands for alternating current traction. Out of all the multi-purpose switchers that EMD has, well, there's not many variants of them, but the only one that does not have a tunnel motor is the MP15DC. The MP15E rebuild also has no tunnel motor as well. The only other switcher that has a tunnel motor is the EMD MP15T, which you can see right here. CSX has these MP15Ts, its Seaboard system had them. The MP15T, I mean, definitely has some differences between the MP15AC as well. But only the MP15AC and the MP15Ts have tunnel motors. The MP15DCs and the MP15E rebuilds do not have tunnel motors at all. And right here, as you can see, some general purpose units can also have tunnel motors. This one's a little bit harder to spot because my idiot self decided to take a blurry photo of the engine. Anyway, yeah, it's right there. That's the tunnel motor. But anyway, here, this engine is called a GP15T, which can also be referred to as a GP15-1. The GP means general purpose. The 15, I think it's also 1,500 horsepower. And then T meaning tunnel motor. Well, guys, that's pretty much all that I have to share. I might have missed some tunnel motor engines. Well, I'm mainly just going over the tunnel motor engines that are more known than other ones, so I probably could have missed some tunnel motors and stuff, but that's okay. I just went over the main ones pretty much, and I'm definitely for sure that I got all about the GE Super 7 series. So that's pretty much it for today, guys. Thank you all for watching. Consider subscribing for more awesome content. I'll see you guys later.